Hey, I'm Lance Phillips. Today is the first day of summer, and in Lloydminster, it's followed very quickly by the first day of winter.
I'm Josh Ryan, and unfortunately, he's right. Basically. Basically.
Totally right.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
The first day of summer is just in time for the first day of winter. It'll be minus 40 before you know it.
Oh, it was minus 40 before we knew it. That's why our winter lasted so dang
I thought
long.
it was coming the other day when it was hailing out. I thought the apocalypse was coming, actually.
Well.
Hey, welcome to The Gloves Are Off. Lance Phillips, Josh Ryan, your Tuesday evening sports fiasco. Fiasco's probably the best way to put it, I would say.
Well, it has been. It hasn't always been a fiasco, though. We've had some non-fiasco moments.
We have had
I'd
some
say.
non-fiasco
Few,
moments.
Anyway.
There were some good stories from the local sports scene this week. There were
Yeah.
some big victories. There were some close losses, but still meaning good things. And we should start on the victory side, I would say, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of optimism this week.
Yeah, definitely. We'll start with the Northwest Prairie Pirates, who won 2 games, which actually matched their season total. 2 games on the weekends against the Regina Wolfpack. Game 1, 10-3. Game 2, 15-4. Josh, Ryan, has this team finally turned the corner? Are we going to see good things for the remainder of the season?
I'm not gonna say we won't, but this doesn't mean that much in the big
Whoa,
scheme of things.
really?
It's a small sample size. This isn't to say they aren't going to perform
the term
well.
Small sample size.
It is a small sample size. 2 games. 2 games is a small sample size. Pitching goes into a lot of that. You could see that with, Miami Marlins fans a couple of weeks ago. They're complaining about their team being bad.
Are you comparing the Miami Marlins and the Northwest Prairie Pirates?
No, I'm comparing the reaction of people. So they go from being one of the worst teams in the league to having a 5-game win streak. Oh my goodness, we're on a hot streak. They were playing the Phillies, who was the worst team in the league. Not that this team from Regina was bad, but bad pitching sometimes or struggling pitching can play a role in a team getting hot offensively. Obviously, they were very hot offensively, but I just think it's too small a sample to go, okay, here's the moment. If they then continue this trend for, say, 2 or 3 more games, I'm definitely on board.
Cooper Olsen pitched 6 innings of outstanding ball in game number 1. Paul Cubbin, their catcher from North Battleford, they're getting great production out of him. He was fantastic on the sticks. This could be the moment this team turns the corner. It really depends on the upcoming series of games this weekend.
Yes.
They've got 2 of the top 3 teams in town for 2-game series, both for Saturday and Sunday, in the Diamondbacks and the Cubs from Saskatoon. They've got to show that they can compete against these teams, because previously they have not. If they show that they can compete, maybe they lose, but the games are close, we'll see the corner turned. It's not very often you see 15 runs scored in a Premier Baseball League game. Exactly.
And when you're playing top competition, it's going to be harder to get that many runs, and your pitching is going to have to work much, much harder. So, yes, this is a great result. As you said, though, next weekend, or this coming weekend, rather, is the key parameter for it.
I think we're starting to see Josh Herback South, his coaching mentality, start to rub off on these kids. We're seeing better production. The one issue they have, they're still a little error prone. In the first game, they gave up some runs due to a calamity of errors in one particular play. So if they can lock that down, they've got a great shot.
And they do have a great test, as you said. These type of good teams, they make you hurt with those errors.
That's true.
Someone who didn't have a lot of errors over the weekend was Jamie Labicane, winning the Dewberry Show on the CPCA Tour. He now sits in 6th place overall in the standings. But is he creeping into your top 4 for guys to watch out for right now?
He's always been there. And I stated from the beginning of the season, I believe he's the guy to beat. I believe that he's the guy who will end up being the Canadian champion at the end of the season. We saw what he did last year. As it pertains to my top 4, I guess we'll roll through those right now. Is that what you want to do, Josh?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, let's do that. I've got Chris Molly, and this is in no particular order, by the way, because I can't. Yeah,
we're just saying 4 guys to watch out for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Chris Molly, clearly he won day money Sunday of the Battleford show, or sorry, Sunday of this past show, and he won the Battleford show. Yes. And he's always been a threat out there. So he was second in Dewberry by just under 0.6 of a second behind Labicane. So I mean, he's a guy that's always a threat.
278 points to start in the lead as well.
Right. Jamie Labicane, he is my pick. Yeah, he's 6th, but I don't put a lot of stock into that. He's won day money twice. He just won the Dewberry show. And again, just going back to what he did last year, coming all the way up the standings. Wayne Knight is a guy that has been very consistent. He's another guy who's won day money twice. He's 2nd in driver's standings. And, at the beginning of the season, would I have said that Wayne Knight could have been one of my top 4? No way. But I think that what we're seeing out of him means he could be. And then after that, it's quite a bit, it's muddled. Mm-hmm. But I have Devin Mitsui, Ray Mitsuy's son. And one of the main reasons is because he's driven 2 wagons He's driven 2 outfits twice for the last 2 weeks. And I think that that's going to help him going forward, and he's a model of consistency as well. I think he'll be in there.
The only thing to worry, though, with Devin Mitswing is he is a little bit farther behind in the standings at the moment, currently sitting 18th.
Long season.
Ray is actually sitting in 4th place right now. He is another guy to keep an eye out for.
That's because Devin's been driving his outfit.
Fair enough. Another guy to watch for, Chance Bensmiller, had a couple of good runs, especially the last one in Dewberry, and underrated time there. Maybe if that continues, that could be a good trend for him moving forward.
Yeah, he definitely is another guy that's on the radar. There's so many guys there.
There are a lot of talent
that are definitely available to get into those top 4.
Yeah.
Lloydminster Extreme had a good week. Very productive, because last Sunday they were awful. And I mean awful, that's an insult to awful teams. They were absolutely lifeless. They came out uninspired and got throttled by Sherwood Park. This week, they went into Vermilion. Short players beat the Roar, came back Sunday against the top-ranked Lakeland Heat, lost 9-8, and barely lost that game. I thought that they were going to take it late in the third. They were impressive, very, very impressive. What do they need to do, though? They're going to host a playoff game. July 8th and 9th, playoff series. What do they need to do to win that and go on?
Well, number one, which you have talked about basically since day one, is reduce the errors, be consistent. They always seem to have a lot of turnovers, and it comes into those 2 or 3 minute stretches in games where guys are just not quite as mentally into it as they should be. A little bit of lack of focus on the defensive end mostly, not being sharp and aggressive with their pick and rolls on offense. They obviously did a great job this last week, as you said, coming so close. Even in that game, though, just a couple of minor moments here and there, and that's where you lose against good teams. So consistency really is the main thing for them moving forward.
Without a couple of big players too Sunday.
That's true.
And this has been an issue. They've had a short bench, but they were without Logan Blythe and they were without Brad Gorgon this past Sunday. Those are 2 of their top 5 scorers. If you can have a healthy bench and they can have all their players producing, that is what they need. That's what they need, because each game they're getting better and better. Minus last Sunday, they are getting better and better. And I like what I'm seeing out of them as a crew. I think Graham Murray's got them ticking really well. Offensively, they're starting to click more. You're seeing these guys. It's just, to me, it's on the defensive side of the ball. There's a bit more of a struggle there. And offensively, they just make some plays that shouldn't. They try to pass into traffic that can't be done. They have troubles with turnovers on offense. If they can eliminate those or minimize them at best, that'll help them a lot.
Absolutely. And as you said, when they're not healthy, they need those other guys who are forced to play more minutes to step up. So these next couple of weeks of practice, you'll really see what kind of impact they can have.
Right. And as I mentioned, home playoff game, July 8th and 9th. They're hosting a series. They're going to have one of the 2 Ottawa. They don't even play Ottawa. Edmonton teams. That's my Ontario coming out. Yeah. One of the 2 Edmonton teams. So lots of fans should be at those games supporting them.
Ottawa is kind of the Edmonton of Ontario anyway.
Sure.
So it's close enough.
Sure.
Another team that's very excited for the future, at any rate, is the Rustlers women's basketball team. Finally announcing their recruiting class fully, and a couple of particularly great names coming in. Tori Dugan, if you remember her name, well, that's because she was, in fact, the starting point guard on that undefeated squad that lost in the semifinal when they hosted 2 years ago. Her teammate from the Western Pro League in Australia, Georgina Henley, is coming, as well as Brianne Hergott from Lethbridge and Bailey Johnson from the U of S volleyball team, among a few, plus a strong returning core. Safe to say, a few more wins this year for this squad.
Safe to say a few more wins. Not only on the score sheet, a few more wins emotionally and mentally for this team as well. They're not going to have to deal with the California connection like they had to deal with last season.
He's not going back there.
No, and I had a chance to talk to Chris King. He just got back from a trip to Orlando. And excitement is an understatement. Excited is an understatement for how he feels about this team right now. And it's going to be great for Lakeland, because this is a team that needs to make some noise this coming postseason when they get in, because I believe they're going to. Who I really like out of this mix beyond Tori, who's an obvious, studette.
Yep.
Is that even a word? I don't even know.
We've made it a word.
Okay.
We've made it.
Who I like is Brianne Hergott. I really like her. She's 6'2". She came from a championship team in Lethbridge, and she's going to bring a lot of great size. She's a little bit nasty under the rim, which I like, and I think someone like her is really going to help Shania Magnuson.
Yeah, because one of the reasons they did so well on that undefeated squad was having 3 6-footers to roll out with Shania, and then also Brooklyn Bertoya was on that team, and Rebecca, blanking on her last name now, unfortunately. That the 3 of them going off just gave every team so much trouble, and now at least with 2 twin towers, that gives you an advantage. Also, the thing that Chris really has talked about is just how feisty defensively this team is going to be.
Right.
The Georgina coming in from Australia, she's a great scorer, but a firecracker is the word he used on defense.
And the other thing to keep in mind here is you're bringing back a group of girls who bonded together in spite of infighting between some other
Absolutely.
girls. And this core group is going to be together. They improved immensely over last season. I really like the way Taya Paler improved as the season went on.
Yes.
And she'll be another person that they can really rely on. I think this team is 24-0. I don't think so, but they're going to be sharp, and they'll be a team to watch.
I think they're going to have a shot at that, especially with Tori Dugan, who 2 years ago, honestly, was one of the best distributing point guards in the entire conference. Her back at the helm, I think that bodes really well for the squad.
Let's move to the CFL and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. That's the team out here in Lloydminster.
That is.
And they made their last round of cuts after spring camps. Josh, have they made the right cuts here?
Well, I think you had to. The obvious one, Vince Young, was the one everyone was talking about. Injury,
He had to go.
Didn't look great in camp.
No.
As many people are saying, just struggled with the Canadian version of the game versus the American version of the game. Anthony Allen is another one that people were talking about a little bit. He wasn't particularly happy with being cut.
No, he wasn't, and I think he has every right to be angry with being cut. He was a guy I thought that they would keep. He over his time in BC last year, he ran for 3 touchdowns. Over his career, I believe he's run for 11, 348 carries for just over 1,900 yards. So he's roughly a 5.5 yard per carry guy.
Pretty solid.
I liked him, and I thought that he would be a guy. But yeah, he was upset to say the least. And that's the one pick I think they made a mistake on.
Yeah, another pick that stands out a little bit to me, though it's not a shock, but I thought they might give him more of a chance, was Brian Bennett, who had a great mini camp. Didn't perform that well in the exhibition contest.
He was the number 2 quarterback going into camp.
But when you look at the rest of what they have at the QB, Kevin Glenn, Brandon Bridge, Marquise Williams, it doesn't inspire a ton of confidence.
Oh no,
in
no,
how good
they need Kevin Glenn to stay healthy. If
really
Kevin
do.
Glenn does not stay healthy, they are in a world of hurt.
And maybe Brian Bennett could have been that guy had Kevin Glenn not come into the season.
They're putting their money on Brandon Bridge if something happens to Kevin Glenn.
It's not real safe money, in my opinion. I don't like that investment very much.
Oh my gosh. Well, and that's the thing is, Vince Young had to go. Like you said, he struggled. But Bennett is another guy maybe they should have kept. I'm not sure that Brandon Bridge can fill that void. And the other thing I wonder about here in Rough Rider land is Chris Jones. Is Chris Jones the right guy to coach this team? Great defensive coach, but I'm not. I feel like he's in turbulent waters. He is turbulent waters himself even.
I mean, you could make that argument. There's more than a few people would agree with you on that one.
No, and I think they're going to give him another year. I see the Rough Riders organization giving him another year. If he can't get this team out of a 5-win season, that might be the end for him.
Yeah, that's the thing with many coaches in sports is they're not given a long enough leeway. But after last season, they do need to see strides.
Yeah.
And if they don't make any strides, as you said,
That's
maybe an early snip.
Bye-bye. That sounds like a vasectomy.
And I don't know how I transitioned, but some sad news now is with Tim Hagen, local MMA fighter and kindergarten teacher in the Edmonton area, was tragically killed. He passed away on Sunday after his fight with Adam Braidwood at the Shaw Conference Center. Tim Haig obviously was in critical condition for 2 days before then passing away surrounded by his family. We were talking off camera. Does this possibly hurt MMA, at least locally, but even from a wider region in Canada?
I hope it does. I hope it does. I think this sport is barbaric. Now, I know this was boxing. This wasn't MMA, this particular bout. But I believe that these two sports are barbaric. And when we live in an age where long-term cognitive problems, head trauma, concussions are major factors in every sport, how do these two sports continue to exist? How? There's no way that you should have fighters dying in the ring. And part of this can be blamed on numerous factors. I got to go to the official on this one. I got to go to the referee. You cannot allow a guy to take 3 standing 8 counts in the first round, what they classified as a slip. He took another standing 8 count in the second round just a minute before he was KO'd. There's no way that fight should have been into the second round. Absolutely no way. And these amateur bouts like this make me wonder about the professionalism of the officials in place.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you on the latter portion of your point. In terms of the wider argument, whether it hurts the MMA or not, I will disagree with you slightly.
Sorry, I didn't really answer that question.
No, I
guess I did. I said I hope it does.
I think you did. Certainly from your perspective. I think what you do have to look at though is I mean, the NFL, people are calling a barbaric sport now as well, with the knowledge we have about brain trauma and how much physical impact those guys take. And
yeah, but these are direct punches to the skull and kicks to the skull.
As they have direct head-to-head contact in football. And my argument would be is that hasn't hurt football yet. Football enrollment is still reasonably high. The NFL and CFL remain popular, and with the MMA growing, as much as this will make people look differently at how the sport is officiated, and certainly at the amateur level, I think there will be more of a look at whether or not guys should go into this.
There's so much more to this, though. Like you have guys that are getting, and women for that matter, we just saw the Holly Holm fight not too long ago, where she was kicked down. Kicked in the head, first of all, fell down, and Holly Holm was allowed to come in and give her a sharp left right in the face. Like, there's no way that should go on. It's absolutely insane. I hope the sport dies. I hope it does, and people can say whatever they want, but I hope it dies. And that's all I got to say.
Okay, Lance with the hot take of the
It's
week.
hot.
Very hot take.
It's hot. Coming up on the other side, Ryan Sklapski, one of the friends of the show, joins us to talk LPSD sports and Bishop Lloyd sports.
We're back. You can keep your gloves on, but ours are off.
Welcome back to The Gloves Are Off. Lance Phillips, Josh Ryan, and Ryan Sklapski. How are you, my man? Good to have you here.
Good to have you in the studio.
Good. Thanks for having me.
It is good to have you in here. Yeah, I guess the last time you were in here was quite a bit different.
Yeah, the whole setup is a little different, you know. Josh is a little better looking than Andrew, so...
oh, wow. I can't wait to tell Andrew.
Andrew might not like that from Ontario, but tough luck. So.
Yeah, we're glad to get you in. You've been instrumental in helping a lot of people in this area just kind of get familiar with different sports that are happening.
And there's lots that's happening in Lloyd. So
yeah, for sure, and with especially with public school division, you know, you've helped me instrumentally, and I tell everybody, like, this guy is the best because you're always helping me out when I'm in a jam with stuff. So it's great. And I guess you're kind of approaching finals now. That's what's happening.
Our year's winding down. We start finals Friday, Monday, Tuesday, and then kids are done Wednesday and staff are done Friday, and then it's summer holidays and find something to fill the void, I guess you could say. So.
Does it make you sad?
A little bit. The group of grade 9s we have this year at Bishop Lloyd are a super nice group of kids, so it's always tough seeing that group leave to go to the comp and a new group come in from grade 6 to grade 7, and you know, some are scared and petrified in the hallways, and you could tell the nerves are there, and then there's some kids that just walk in like they own the place and think middle school is no big deal. So
that's really funny.
Are you looking forward to this particular group coming up for you, though?
Yeah, it'll be. I don't think it's going to be as strong group as we've had, Josh, in previous years, but this grade 9 group was a special group that we had that are leaving. We have 5 banners that we're raising to the roof at Bishop Lloyd, and I know ES has some that they're raising to the roof for their respective sports, and College Park had a really successful track season with Van Anderson winning bronze at shot put in Saskatoon a few weeks back. So I mean, between the 3 middle schools, you know, the representation was well, and it will be good for Lloyd Comp next year for the group of grade 10s that are coming into their place.
And that's just what I was going to say, is how much confidence does it give you to know that the strong crop of kids is going to end up at the comp for years?
Yeah, and it's good because they're there for 3 years. The group of grade 10s are at the comp right now. We're probably our strongest we've sent in between the 3 middle schools in a number of years, but this group isn't lacking, and the best part is a lot of them play a variety of sports, so they'll be able to fill the different holes on the Baron squad as much as possible.
How important is that, the kind of feeder system the middle schools are, to then allow a high school to be dominant in sports, in the coaching space?
Yeah, it's massive, because if without the feeder system, you know, the teams don't have the success they do. You see with club volleyball, the women's side with Kelsey Rogers' team is the hours that some of those girls are putting into the courts from grade 7 to grade 9. They're able to step in grade 10 and, you know, hold their own against some of the grade 11, 12 girls. You see with the basketball, there's club basketball going on in town. That's helping the boys side, especially with Scott Lumbert's team with the Barons there. So each of the teams, I guess, has a feeder system, and the coaches are, coming in. I know when I did badminton at Bishop Lloyd, we went and practiced with the Barons quite a bit just to get our grade 9s used to that jump up. As I've mentioned to Lance before, it's a big jump up, and the more familiar you can get the kids with that system and the coaches' systems, the better off they're going to be for grade 10.
And it's interesting you mentioned that jump, because I remember when I went from, it was elementary school back then to high school, that jump was huge. It was massive.
Yeah.
But, so like, is there anything specifically, well, you mentioned that you bring the kids out to badminton, but is there anything kind of specifically that you're doing with these kids to prep them, be like, look, this is what you're up against?
You just try to talk about the compete level that you need to have in order to make these senior teams, because some of the kids, they start in grade 7, they start grade 8, they start grade 9, they expect to start in grade 10 over at the high school, and some of the kids aren't making that jump right away, right?
I guess not.
Like you have those JV teams in place for that reason, to help them out and kind of shorten the gap there a little bit as far as where the skill level is with the team. So.
Yeah. Just to jump back to the banners, what was the one banner that was, I guess, the biggest surprise, that was the most pleasant surprise out of the banners at Bishop Lloyd?
Oh, by far girls basketball. I didn't check back all the years, but I know the first banner we have is 1994 in the one corner of our gym. And you look at the entire 3/4 or 3 walls that we have banners on, there's not a single girls basketball banner. So you can see the emotion and the energy that those girls had when they won. It's something special they'll take with them. So
you hold a specific ceremony for that?
Yeah, in the fall at our first pep rally, we'll always do banner raising. Normally we only have 2 or 3 banners. We put them on the curtain, we raise them to the roof, we play We Are the Champions. It's nice. This year is going to be a little bit more of a problem, I guess, in a good way, because we have 5 banners, and there's not a lot of room on that curtain for all 5 banners, and we always say a little piece about each of the kids that won, and I think some of my staff are going to be a little tired of me talking about some of these kids here, so yeah, should be good.
Another banner that banner raising you were involved with was the Lakeland College ACSC Championship, and then of course the national champ afterwards. You did a couple of games with me when we did the play-by-play, but you also kind of behind the scenes helping out with things. How important is that relationship you guys have with Lakeland Athletics?
Oh, it's massive. Kevin Wagner, Chris King have been awesome as far as our phys ed program. Bishop Lloyd, we're over at their gym 2-3 times a week, accessing their facility, so it's beneficial that way.
That's a big deal.
And then within my role within Lloyd Public, we have Kevin's soccer kids and Kinger's basketball girls and Sheree's basketball boys. They all come back and they run clinics for the 6 elementary schools. So it's huge for those kids to help out. So
yeah, do you think that this experience of the women's team winning, that will have a big effect on the middle school level volleyball moving forward, you think?
Oh yeah, it's going to be huge, and it's good. The good part for Josh is it's going to bring students in from outside of Lloyd to compete for these wrestler club volleyball spots that Austin and Taylor have throughout the year. Like
gives them a look at some of these kids too.
Well, yeah, but the numbers are huge in Lloyd, and they have club volleyball teams from 13 to 18U, but I mean, there's going to be a shortage of coaches. I mean, and that's a good problem to have as far as you have so many athletes but not enough coaches. It's going to, compete for spots, make it big.
That's great. What's the most enjoyable thing you do throughout the year in your job with the public school division and with Bishop Lloyd?
Oh, that's a good question. I won't say officiating, because I know the beaking I put up with from the sidelines in football can get a little.
That's funny.
Can get a little bit of a headache. I think just seeing the kids find success in sport.
That's awesome.
I think that's kind of what it's about, and I mean, both you guys have sporting backgrounds. You can see the benefits that sport has in youth, but also as you get older, and Josh, you play beach volleyball all the time. I mean, that's something that sport teaches those kids at the elementary, the middle years, the high school, that they can take with them for the rest of their life.
For sure. And obviously there's a lot of places for them to do things like beach volleyball in town as well. Is it great to see, I think for the most part anyway, how much people do support local sports? Like they actually get decent crowds out to events, including the middle school.
Yeah, and it's good for the students to get used to that crowd setting, because not a lot of them get big crowds when they play their sports, right?
Yeah.
So the more exposure they can you, the better off they're going to be. So
We're always trying to give them exposure as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Try to do
That's
what we can. You had the fun run this past weekend.
Yep.
How did that go?
It was really good. We, I think Chad Smith at College Park was a little bit worried about the weather when he woke up first thing Saturday morning, got to Bud Miller bright and early, and saw the rain. And the worry with like Color Run is it's going to be just a sloppy mess. But it worked out well. We got a pile of participation from the school division, pile of kids out. Numbers were down a little bit, but I think that has a little bit more to do with the economic state that Lloydminster's in. And,
Yeah, that's interesting.
And we had it a week later, and we had a softball tournament or a baseball tournament that was in town that we were competing against too. So
That's good. Well, so you how long do you have before you're on your summer break?
I am done June 30th.
Holy cow,
Right
it's right
till
around
then.
the corner.
June
Right
30th,
around the
yeah,
corner.
next Friday, and then it's, like I said, it'll be a busy summer going to Winnipeg to work with Team Saskatchewan for the Canada Summer Games. So
That's awesome.
be a good resume builder and work with some high-level athletes and see some good competition in Winnipeg. So
That's fantastic.
What are you most looking forward to about that experience?
well, I'm working triathlon, and I don't know anything about triathlon other than you run, you bike, you swim. So I mean,
But you got it.
the
You know triathlon.
yeah,
You know triathlon.
well, there's a little bit more to it than that, you could say. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, listen, enjoy the summer and take some well-deserved time off.
Yeah,
as
man.
well.
Yeah,
sure
no,
you
it'll be
do
good.
that.
It'll be good.
Stay out on the lake as long as you can.
Good
Yeah,
to have
for
you
sure.
in here today.
Thanks,
really,
guys.
really glad to have you in, and enjoy your summer.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see you around the facilities, I'm sure, in Lloydminster.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Albert on the other side. He's loaded up.
As always, I guess.
Yeah, you got it.
We're back, and the gloves are still off.
Hey kids, Albert joins us for the
National pastime
national
of tweet
pastime
mail.
of Glovers.
Glover's tweet mail.
I'm on point today.
I think we're both pretty on point. I forgot a name.
His name's Albert.
Well, another name. But
Oh, okay.
that one I always
Go
remember.
ahead,
And I will
Jeff,
start us off. This was quite awesome. This is from @Dwayne Price, DWAIN. Breaking news, an elderly gentleman just beat Devin Harris, that's an NBA player, in a game of knockout at the Mavs hoop camp in Rowlett. And obviously you see the reaction from everyone in the
Yeah,
stands. I mean,
they're a bit ecstatic.
yeah.
I thought the old guy was going to have a heart attack at the end of that video.
Well, I like that they were there to save him. And he
They
did have a
actually
heart
did
attack.
do that. That's true.
Yeah, they were
pretty
there to save him.
All right, this is good stuff. Diana Taurasi, I believe that's how you pronounce her last name.
Taurasi.
Taurasi, pardon me, is the WNBA's new all-time leading scorer. That's it's always good news. I like seeing tweets about women in sport, and I kind of, it frustrates me to some end that women don't get the same opportunities men do as it comes to professional sport, and I wish they did.
Yeah, it is a frustration that not
From a
just you
financial
share.
standpoint as well,
Yeah.
we don't see it.
Yeah, and a lot of it all does come down to just the appeal of the league itself. But as you've seen in the last couple of years, once women have been put on the world stage, like they have in tennis, thanks to Billie Jean King among others, and in women's soccer recently, people do go watch it. And the WNBA's slowly grown, perhaps more Diana Taurasi's, or maybe the
there's
couple of young
mail.
studs from Canada that have really shown up in recent years.
Albert
That'll
wants
change.
you to pick.
Yeah, sorry, Albert. I was starting to gas bag a little bit. From @ATF13ATF, that's NHL Insider Dinger. Don't make me say that one again. The Golden Knights choose a total of 30 players in Wednesday's NHL expansion draft. However, their math doesn't quite add up.
It's kind of poor.
Yeah.
They can pick 4 extras.
Yes.
So
You've
that's
got
where the
mail.
4 extras
Yeah,
come
just
from.
didn't take that into account.
This is @JoshSmith_82. This is great. This comes from Hamilton and the Tim Hortons field there. This picture taken from tonight's game, this was Hamilton, Toronto, if I'm not mistaken. Tonight's game by my friend @SilverManatee really encapsulates Hamilton's specialness. And you can see that they've got Hamilton proud. It's totally backwards. How do you make that mistake? How do you make that mistake?
I mean, how do you do the math wrong as well, though? The
I
last
guess
one.
so. But those are mistakes you
there's
can't make. Hamilton
mail.
proud, and the sign's upside down and backwards. Well, actually, it wasn't upside down. It was just backwards.
It is a pretty bad mistake.
Pathetic.
And speaking of mistakes, Vegas at Kotsonika, Cotsonik. I hope I spelled that right, or pronounced that right. Get in the cab in Vegas, and a recording of @Gary Lawless is talking to me about the Golden Knights. He's the new
Imagine
Sinatra.
getting in a cab and the Golden Knights have recordings in the cabs that they're talking about the team.
It's great marketing. I think this is going to be really good for the NHL.
Well, it remains
It's
to
a
be
lot of
seen.
exposure.
I mean, the thing that interests me is, can this team survive in a Vegas market? And I don't know if they can. All right,
I think they will.
This is Shea Serrano at Shea Serrano.
Love
Happy
Shea
Father's Day to my dad. That's Kawhi Leonard.
He is my favorite
Yeah, I know he
sports
is.
writer right
I
now.
actually found that one. I was
love.
like, you'd love that.
He had a recent article about movie sharks.
Yeah.
You've got
Particularly
mail.
great. He bounces off into pop culture as well, outside of just sports. Another great sports writer at Michael Grange from Sportsnet. The Sixers aren't an option for Lowry, and Paul George is available. How bold will the Raptors' Masai Ujiri be? That, of course, referring to the Celtics Sixers draft pick swap that is making heads in the NBA.
I believe you thought that Kyle Lowry could be a $30 million a year player.
He still might be a
There's
$30 million.
no way. That tweet
don't know, man.
encapsulates the fact that it's not going to happen.
Mike Conley, who I would say is not as good a player as Kyle Lowry, makes $30 million
But it's
a
a
year.
different. It's a different season. It's a different free agency period.
Teams can now pay
Everything's
their
different.
players more than they could 2 years ago when Conley got his
I
contract.
get it, but he's not worth that money, and I can't see him getting it. He's not going to.
Was Alexander Semin worth $7 million a year?
Yes, in the hockey world, Alexander Semin is.
You're so full of it.
So Rashmadani, Ada Rashmadani, fantastic. September's Davis Cup, Canada versus India, will be played in Edmonton. This is good news.
Yeah.
Tennis in Edmonton. Moving the event all over the country helps grow the game. I agree with that tweet.
100%.
And I know you agree with me on 7.
I don't agree with on everything, but yeah, that's
I don't
absolutely
agree with me on
a sport. Tennis, is a sport that's still growing in the country. Obviously, Milos Raonic, Eugene Bouchard helping that. As many local spots as you can.
There's
It's
mail.
great.
And I'm hoping I can get to that because I think that'd be fantastic.
Absolutely. Hopefully, some local people from Lloyd will kind of get
The
their
only
kids out
drawback
there.
is you have to make that horrific drive from Lloydminster to Edmonton.
I mean, it could be the drive from Calgary to Edmonton, which
Or
is a lot worse.
Saskatoon to Lloydminster. Okay, let's go.
We're going to dig ourselves a hole in a hurry with that. From @D6Ras, that's from Andre DeGrasse, of course, the famous Canadian sprinter, medal winner at the Olympics. Speak it into existence. He ran a 9.69 this week.
I know, and that this is the thing about. First of all, there's two things about that. First of all, he said speak it into existence. I do not like Andre DeGrasse anymore, because that is a LeVar Ball quote, and LeVar Ball can find the flat spot on earth to fall off.
I don't know how you made that connection.
That's because that's what LeVar Ball says. I speak it into existence all the time.
He's saying he's talking about belief. He's not talking about arrogance.
I know he's not talking about arrogance. I'm just saying he used a quote. Okay, that's the first thing.
You've
the
got
second
mail.
thing is, unfortunately, that time will not go into any record book because the wind assistance was over 4 miles an hour, and if it's over 2,
True.
they don't count it.
That is true.
Which is a shame because he is doing great things.
He is doing
and
great
he is who my pick to be the next Olympic champion.
Hey,
And
there's
that's
mail.
why that's awesome, because he's still in the early portion of his
It's
career.
incredible.
He's got great years
Hey,
ahead of him
there's
still.
mail.
No,
Man,
he
I
does.
think your hatred of LeVar Ball is just reaching a little bit.
LeVar Ball. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of his. All right, this is great news from the weekend over here.
Yeah.
Brooke Henderson, at Brooke Henderson. Best gift I could give my dad today. Happy Father's Day to my #1 fan. Of course, Brooke Henderson winning on the weekend. Just a fantastic story with her dad there on Father's Day. Very impressive. She's a great young golfer. Her fourth, LPGA win.
And that's important for women's golf in the country as well as a whole.
Certainly is. Coming up on the other side, we're picking our own picks for the Vegas Golden Knights.
I think mine are better.
If you can't score, you might as well drop the gloves.
Hey all, we're your friends, Lance Phillips, Josh Ryan, for a funny little segment we're going to have here. The Vegas Golden Knights
Yes.
are on the clock, and they have to make their selections for the expansion draft by tomorrow evening. And we were going to pick all 30 players, both of us, which meant 60. That's a lot.
I haven't done a draft in so long. I'm
Yeah, I
actually
haven't
really
either. So
excited
we're just
about
going
this.
to pick 9.
Yeah.
And we're going to pick 3 forwards, 3 defensemen, and a couple of goaltenders that we think will probably maybe not end up in Vegas uniforms, but what we would pick, who we'd pick anyways.
Yeah, and it's probably not going to be the same picks.
No, one for sure is. I guarantee it.
Okay.
But we don't have any idea who each other's pick. So why don't you start on your forward side?
Okay, so we'll go my forwards one by one, or do you want them all names and then explain?
Do your forwards and just do whatever you want to do.
All right, so for my three forwards, I'm going with Jumbo Joe Thornton as a center. I know he's older, but he's still productive player. As proven by the last couple of years, he can still put up points. He's still one of the best assist men in the league. Great veteran leader, and I think starting a new franchise, you need that leadership. Another older player, Jaromir Jagr, is also on that list. And that's mainly on the list, and it's not even
you just picked two players that have a combined age of over 80.
I know. The reason why I picked Jagr is because I just want to see him wreck Las Vegas. There's no other reason than that. I just want to see Jagr go across Las Vegas. And the third pick, I'm going a little bit younger here. TJ Oshie had a bit of an off campaign last year for the Capitals, but still a very capable scorer. And I think a guy like that who's a U.S. favorite would do well in that market.
Okay, that's an interesting pick because he's still essentially owned, for lack of a better term, by the Cap. So if he does not want to go to Vegas, he does not have to go to Vegas. So
he'll want to go to Vegas.
I like the old man picks. However, they're not going to go old men. All right, I've got Jakob Silfverberg from Anaheim, James Neal from Nashville, and Bobby Ryan from Ottawa. First of all, Jakob Silfverberg is not going to end up in Vegas. There's been 9 teams apparently that have already done deals with Vegas to keep some of their exposed players playing for their team, and I believe this is one of them. He's a kid in his 20s, early 20s, in the prime of his career. Just came off, I believe, a 20-goal season. So Silfverberg probably isn't going anywhere, but I really like him. James Neal from Nashville, another guy who's very productive offensively. He's a guy that I do expect to end up in Vegas.
Thought about him quite a bit.
Bobby Ryan didn't have the greatest regular season with Ottawa, but he was like a man on fire in the playoffs. And there's another guy that I'm not sure if he'll end up there. Ottawa will probably do what they can to keep him, but I'm surprised you went old there because Vegas wants young players. They want to build through the draft. So, a lot of these players probably aren't going to go anywhere because Vegas wants to deal to get draft players.
That's true. Again, with Thornton, I think he's just the leadership value is so important. And having one or two, I mean, mostly younger team is important, but if you grab one or two older guys, I think that is important. Bobby Ryan was my toughest cut. I actually
thought about Jaromir Jagr originally until I realized he's almost dead. And then I decided not to go with him.
You say almost dead. Man, that guy's still scoring 50, 60, 70 points a season.
Yeah, and he's scoring with like 20-year-old girls.
Well, yes, he's been doing that for a long time.
Let's go to defense.
Yeah. So again, I don't know if we'll have commonality on this. Mark Mathot from the Senators is who I went with instead of Bobby Ryan. He's a really underrated defenseman, two-way guy, covers things in his own end, moves the puck well, has some toughness. Sami Vatanen is my pick from the Ducks. I think he's a really underrated defender as well. And there's a strong chance that a couple of different teams are actually looking at grabbing him. And finally, another older pick, but I think it's having one more locker room guy is good, Andrei Markov. I think the guy is still a solid defenseman, and he still moves the puck really well, and I think that could help this team.
Josh has 3 players that are combined over 120 years old.
And everyone else is super young. I just need 3 oldsters. Every team needs some grandpas.
We have some similarities here. I have Mark Mathot. I have Sami Vatanen. The thing with Mathot is if Ottawa has half a brain, which I believe that they do, Mathot isn't going anywhere.
Exactly.
Because they need him with Karlsson. I mean, Karlsson's as good as he is because he's Erik Karlsson. Yeah. But he's also good because he's got Mark Mathot with him. Yeah. And I can't see him going anywhere.
Yeah, allows him to freewheel a little bit.
Yeah, I have Sami Vatanen as well from Anaheim. The other guy I've got is from Winnipeg, Toby Enstrom. And Toby Enstrom is to me a very underrated defenseman. He's a guy that he's good all around. Truthfully, and if I'm Winnipeg, I'm probably not wanting him to get away, but I see him ending up in a Vegas uniform.
That was what leaned me away from picking him, is I think Winnipeg will work hard to still keep him, even though he's not on the protected list. They really do. But yeah, he was a tough cut for me as well. I still think you're underrating Andrei Markov a little bit. He's still a pretty good defenseman.
I mean, I know that he's got great abilities on both sides of the puck. But they don't want old guys. I'd be amazed if they had any of these old guys that they picked any of them up. Joe Thornton's the only one that you could make a case for, and I don't even believe they'll make a case for him.
One of the problems the Oilers ran into in their stink run of the last couple of years was they didn't have a lot of older guys on the team. As bad as Ferentz was for them as a player, he was great off the ice as a leader. And they brought in Ryan Smith for that very reason. Derek Roy in his stop there did the same thing.
Ryan Smith lasted a long time when he came back. You still have to have guys that can produce and win games.
But I just think even if it's only a couple of years, if you start out without a few older guys, you run into trouble without having leadership there. The NBA is rampantly struggling with that because of not having a couple of older guys with all these young teams that are tanking. So that's why I go that way.
Let's go goaltenders. I know that we have the same one here.
We better have at least one in common. So my starter is Marc-Andre Fleury, the obvious one. He's a Stanley Cup winner, and it's just been bad luck that he hasn't been the starter the last 2 years. He's a great goaltender. He was playing well before Murray came in for him as well. He was playing well in the postseason.
The thing that worries me about him is a lot of players, I believe, a change of scenery really helps. I'm not sure a change of scenery out of Pittsburgh helps Marc-Andre Fleury.
Really?
I mean, think about it. He's played his entire career with a kid named Sidney Crosby.
True.
You know, and he's got a lot of experience with a ton of those guys in Pittsburgh because of the time he's spent there. And I don't know if going to Vegas is the best thing for Fleury. He's going to end up in Vegas. He's going to end up in Vegas. And that's great for the Golden Knights because he's an excellent goaltender. I mean, he's fantastic.
He has had some experience in the early days of those Penguins teams. Even that first Stanley Cup, they weren't a phenomenal defensive team. They had a lot of firepower, but allowed a lot of scoring chances. And he was a big reason why they won that Stanley Cup. I mean, that save he made at the end of Game 7 in their first Cup win. And I think he is still young enough and healthy enough and a good enough player that he can handle the extra shot load and increased chances load. Obviously, I don't think that makes them a playoff team, but I think he could be a strong #1 for them. Peter Mrazek is my backup pick. And a lot of other analysts were looking at Peter Mrazek as well. I had leaned towards Brian Elliott at one point, but Brian Elliott's a little bit older. He might have a bit of bad vibe coming out of Calgary the way the year went, and Mrazek has been able to share the load with other goaltenders. So I think he makes a good #2 with Fleury, and he's a little younger, so he could maybe take over after Fleury winds down in 3 or 4 or 5 years.
I had Brian Elliott.
You did?
Yeah, I've got Brian Elliott as the backup in Vegas. Yeah, he's probably a little bit sour about having to leave Calgary, but unlike Fleury, a change for him is a good thing, and I think he'd perform admirably. And in this case, he is an older guy, and he can provide that leadership for Fleury. And Fleury doesn't even really need it at 32, but he can provide some leadership. But I think you can get away with an older guy in goal as a goaltender as opposed to older at forward and defense. That's not what they need. That
is probably true in the long term. Again, I don't think those players are coming in for a long term. I think it's a bit of a short-term game with them. And you're right, Brian Elliott is a very capable goaltender to play that backup role. I mean, he's split time in St. Louis before as well. He's still very good by last year's standards. He just didn't play well in the postseason. The rest of the season, minus the first month, was spectacular. And that could give them a pretty good combo as well. But I do think Mrazek, a little younger, and having to play for some not great Detroit teams bodes well for Vegas.
Okay, here's the question. A lot of people think that the Golden Knights will finish dead last in the NHL this coming season.
I don't think so.
Where do you see them? They're in the Pacific Division.
Yes.
So they're in there against Edmonton. They're in there against Calgary. They're in there against Ducks and Sharks. So where do you see them ending up?
I see them being better than the Phoenix Coyotes right away. I mean, the Coyotes are terrible.
Me too.
They're awful, and they just got rid of their best player. Mike Smith had struggled a few times over the past couple of years. He was still their best player. They are not a well-constructed roster, minus a couple of decent
So you
young
see them
guys.
finishing second last?
I think they could actually surprise people. I don't think the Canucks are that good either.
Canucks are bad.
Right?
Canucks are bad.
And you only have to, if you can finish ahead of just a couple of players, that's a good first season.
And they draft 6th overall in the draft.
Exactly.
Coming up on the other side, another news segment. What's bugging you? We'll be back.
This will be interesting. Very interesting.
We're back. You can keep your gloves on, but ours are off.
Hey sports fans, Lance, Josh, and this is What's Bugging You. There's all kinds of things in the world of sports and even beyond that bug us.
True.
And I'm sure that bug you folks as
We
well.
both are prone to rant once in a while about these
like
things.
the MMA thing.
Yeah.
I may or may not have been a little hot about that. All right, Josh Ryan, what's bugging you?
All right. Well, I mean, what's not bugging me, actually, that's not true. This one starts with what happened over the weekend. Canada's men's national volleyball team, they are off to the World League finals. They're in the final 6 teams, and it was awesome to see. Was talking to a buddy who will remain nameless for the rant. And this buddy of mine said, "Oh, that's awesome. I didn't see it." And my response is, "Why not? I told you about the time you can watch them online." It's like, I felt like sleeping in. And my problem essentially, and this is something that's been building, especially in this local area, is people wanting something and then not going out to support it and help it grow. If you want to see great college athletics, you want to see local content. If you want to see, heck, you can talk about movies. You want to see movies that you like. You have to go watch them, support them, interact with them. We have so many great local sports here between baseball, lacrosse, soccer, hockey, you name it basically in this area. And my problem is with so many people that say, oh, I wish we could go to do this, and then say, I'm going to stay in and watch Netflix instead of going out to watch a Rustlers game or go out to watch a Vandals game.
What if you're watching Netflix and chilling?
Then I suppose I understand. But if you want something, then you need to support it. If you say, we don't have enough local volleyball in this area, we need to actually go out and support local volleyball.
I like it. I like it.
Especially when you get a chance to watch them on national TV. When they're on CBC, volleyball's on CBC, or when you see women's soccer nationally televised at the World Cup, you want to support women's soccer, go watch it. That's how this thing works. You need the viewers to then create a reason to generate money.
You know what's bugging me?
Well, a lot, but
not
can't
Netflixing and chilling. That's bugging me. No, what's bugging me is when people say, if the playoffs started today. The playoffs don't start today. They start when the playoffs start. That is the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard of. If the playoffs started today. Why would anybody say something so stupid as that? Have you ever used that term? I'm going to flip this table if you tell me you have.
Only in the argument of whether or not a team was going to finish strong.
I've never,
because I feel you. I feel you.
There's
man.
never a time when if the playoffs started today should be used, especially because it can change because there's still more games to be played. It's the most ridiculous thing, and that's what's bugging me.
It doesn't bug me as much. I know every TSN does this, Sportsnet does it. It doesn't bug me as much when they do it in late March, where there's like a week to decide. But I understand what you're saying because ultimately, like as you said, matchups can change in a heartbeat. I mean, look at where the NHL playoff race finished. Nashville popped into the playoffs, and then they were in the Stanley Cup final. How many people picked them when they were a couple points out of the playoffs?
I get it. Listen, I wanted to draw attention to one thing on this set that's new to the set. You'll see it behind me here. I kind of duck out of the way.
There, that's better.
Yes, the Cougar bait jersey that joins the set. This comes from a young man that I have known fairly well. His name's Andrew Selby. At an amateur level, I did play-by-play, and he played on the junior team I did play-by-play for, and he very generously donated the Cougar bait jersey. This is the team name of his ball hockey team that play in the Toronto Play-On tournaments. So thanks to Andrew for that, and we've proudly hung it.
Yeah, it's a really nice looking jersey.
It is a really nice looking jersey, and I love the team name. Yeah. I'm a big fan of that.
It's a pretty fun team name. I'd also like to jump in and say Rebecca Burns was the name I couldn't remember earlier. So if Rebecca's watching, my apologies. Burns is a pretty memorable last name.
That's all from us. I know, lucky for you.
It wasn't a disaster.
No, it wasn't.
It was all right.
See you in 7.